next speaker is Mr. Hakan Eroglu. He's an advisor for technology and innovation for the Bank for International Settlements Innovation Hub in Hong Kong. Hakan, originally from Germany but now based in Hong Kong, focuses on open finance, digital currencies, and payments. He's an expert on open data ecosystems, open banking, and open finance regulation, as well as, we mentioned earlier, interoperability and API standardization, instant and cross-border payments. Hakan has more than 14 years of technology and strategy consulting, as well as product development experience, while he worked for MasterCard, Accenture, and Infosys. Please give a warm welcome to Hakan Eroglu from Hong Kong.
Thank you, Trevor. And thank you, Daniel and Alejandro, for the first very insightful presentations and really leading the way to that what I want to talk about. So Trevor said the Bank for International Settlements. I'm sure you all know the BIS. We are the innovation hub, so it's a fairly new kind of department within the BIS. We exist for the last 5 years to solve problems of global finance and payments in the context of in collaboration with central banks. We have 63 member central banks, and we are collaborating with most of them on different projects. So I want to talk about interoperability as well today. So I think that's a key theme, it seems, right, in the context of paperless trade as well, and about open finance. I'll talk a little bit about what open finance is for those who are not very familiar with it, but also how existing infrastructure can be used to solve probably pieces of the problem in paperless trade in the future. Now it works. All right, so let's talk about trade finance, right? So that's the kind of the combination of trade, of global trade, and the world of finance, and somehow both belong together in order to enable the functioning of global trade. However, we all talk about it, it's kind of paper heavy, it's lots of manual processes that we have seen that are really struggling for different participants, stakeholders in the ecosystem. And there have been actually multiple solutions in place. We talked about the platform that you are looking after, but there are also plenty of other blockchain-based solutions and consortia of banks and logistics firms to solve the problem in trade and paperless trade, or let's say pieces of that. However, there are closed-loop solutions. I don't say it's not solving, but I think it's contributing to the solution of paperless trade. However, we believe that probably using existing infrastructure and components and enhance them for the purpose of paperless trade can be promising, namely open finance. So open finance has been there for a while, and I'll talk about it in a second. There have been initiatives already worldwide on standardization of open finance APIs. There are also standards that we have seen in building infrastructure, like connectivity solutions, so some kind of facilities and solutions that are actually making able to transfer data from A to B. But mostly they are domestic, so we haven't seen any cross-border connectivity between these ecosystems. But as you can see, there are building blocks, but the solution is not there yet. So that's why we want to focus in the project, in the BIS Innovation Hub Hong Kong Center project, to tackle that and to see how can we bring open finance work in a way that it really facilitates and helps in paperless trade. Now, when you look at this one here, right, so I don't want you to read all of this, but the key message is that how can we make sure that specifically SMEs can benefit from that, right? So 90% of the businesses worldwide are more than 90% are SMEs, and more than 50% contribute in terms of the jobs that are being provided to people and citizens, right? So it's really important. And how can we make kind of trade finance kind of affordable for them? And how can they use their data that they have already generated in their domestic markets to transfer that into other countries when they start to try to make international trade? So it's not only just for the big corporates, but also for the SMEs. Now, let me just quickly describe a little bit more about the concept of open finance. So open finance, the idea is to make data and financial data and services accessible to third parties, so to so-called TPPs. So these are fintechs, big techs, telco companies, or any firm that has a license to access the data of the consumer in a consented way. So it's very important the consumer, in this case the SME, would then give the consent to the bank to then expose the data to a third-party provider that then can be used for, credit scoring, to enable better credit extension, and probably also for data portability cross-border. So when you look into the circle, you see multiple financial institutions. They have all APIs, but most of them probably are not standardized, or they use proprietary standards. In an ecosystem of open finance, we have an API aggregator, just to keep it simple. So there's some kind of an infrastructure that brings it all together, connectivity of different banks and insurances and multiple other finance companies, to then have one single endpoint to the third-party provider, and then to enable unified use cases. So that's really key, to have facilities to enable unified and standardized and interoperable use cases. But these ecosystems are domestic in most of the cases. So we would like to talk about how to make it global and international. So these are, kind of a visualization of two jurisdictions that have their own ecosystems. And we have seen, multiple trade agreements as well between countries, that data portability is part of the agreement. They want to exchange trade data, but also other type of data. But how to make that possible? We have seen these bilateral agreements, but they can be quite cumbersome, because we run really the risk of having fragmentation. So the more countries are building these bilateral agreements, the more countries are coming up with their own standards and the ways of doing things, the more fragmentation we have, and the more complexity, higher cost, and less scalability. And it's already happening, right? So it's not something that we are just making up, right? It's already happening in different shapes and forms, but we want to kind of contribute with our project to build a platform, a multilateral connectivity platform. We call it the aggregator of API aggregators. So we aggregate all the different ecosystems in the different jurisdictions, harmonize that with the standards, but enable new type of use cases. I'll come to that in a very next slide. But we want to marry it as well with trade finance, because open finance is quite specific to use cases like to account information or to initiate a payment. But what if we could merge that with trade documents, right? To enable better reconciliation processes later on. How can we use existing standards in trade to pair that up with open finance, and then have one unified, seamless and frictionless custom experience for the SMEs, but also enable new type of use cases for the private sector, something we shouldn't be forgetting. We are here from the public sector, but we need to build platforms that are attractive enough for the private sector to adopt and to use it. We are not going to build a platform that is then just a property with proprietary standards. So we want to come up with open standards so that other companies can actually connect and then communicate in an interoperable way across countries. So the platform has three main components. The one is obviously the standards. We are going to work with international standardization organizations that have worked in this field. to partner with us to come up with enhanced standards that then can be used on the platform. We will also work on the interoperable trust framework. So it's very important because a third-party provider, like a fintech company that wants to initiate a payment in another country, it's not possible, right, technically, but also legally, right? But a different story that we need to look at to make sure that the legal frameworks are harmonized in order to make that possible, that a third-party provider from one country can ask for data in another country and then do the data portability to the asking country and then do something with it, right? So we want to create trust between the countries and the third-party providers in different players between these countries. And last but not least, the main part is the interoperability of standards and to make sure that data can be exchanged. These data can include trade documents, like digitized trade documents, but also account information and foreign exchange information to then create a full set of new use cases in a frictionless way. Now, the two key use cases that we're looking at in the first phase of the project is to open a bank account smoothly. So one SME is going to the other country, wants to open a bank account, and then how to make it faster. You can actually transfer your KYC information and accounting information from one country to the other in a standardized manner. The second one is the very classic cross-border case of trade finance and to exchange trade finance data, like the bill of lading, the electronic bill of lading, but also letter of credit, an electronic form of a contract. So we want to combine that all into one platform, combined and married with open finance existing infrastructure. So that's the exciting thing, to use existing infrastructure to then enhance it and not creating completely something new. So I'm very glad to announce also that we have already 5 jurisdictions that have committed to join the project. Like central banks are the representative of these jurisdictions and the Financial Conduct Authority as well across multiple continents. So we have representatives in Asia, in Latin America, Europe, and Middle East. So it's a kind of truly global project. And we have multiple observing members as well in the project that have committed to join. And we plan to start the project around August, once all the paperwork is done. Yeah. And we get support from international organizations in the context of trade digitization, including the UN, but also API standards organizations like Berlin Group and so on and so forth. And we are very open for other jurisdictions, for those who are representing other countries that are really keen in fostering the development of open finance, but want to use it in the context of trade digitization. Feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to discuss. And yeah, so without further ado, I just want to then hand over to the next speaker. But look at this nice picture of this cat, who just says successfully digitized. That's in the ideal world where a cat wants to sell the product that has been created by the cat. No, I'm just kidding. So if you have any questions, just reach out to me on the project. And if you have questions why I have used this cat here in this presentation, just reach out to me. Thank you very much.